Record. Cool. All right, recording now. Cool. Let me see. Is it recording? Yep. All right. I think we're live, Alex.
Let's start from the top.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the Last Gadfly. I'm your host, Stead, and this is...
I'm Alex.
And this is a passion project of both of ours. It's been a long time coming. This is about the master tapes to a show called Dirge for the Charlatans. And it was made by a man named Clay Tiffany, who was a reporter in upstate New York in Briarcliff Manor. Now, Clay was a very charismatic, but a very abrasive person, a very notorious reporter. And he called out a lot of corrupt cops, judges, reporters, anyone he thought was committing crimes or any malfeasance in society. It was definitely a caped crusader, a moral crusader for justice. Would you say that?
Yeah, he had a beat that he was on. He kind of stayed focused on certain topics, and they reoccur throughout these episodes.
Right, yeah. And a lot of it has to do with social justice, civil rights, right? And so his show was very polarizing, and these master tapes are the only tapes in existence left of his show. We've had them for a long time, as I'm sure some of you who have found this channel years ago know. It's been a long process to get to this point, and we have a lot to talk about. But the things that we kind of want to start off with is why, what drew us to this story, and the types of things that I think you guys would be interested in to understand how we got to this place, right, Alex?
Yeah, and these tapes, each one's about an hour long or less. And like Stead said, they were on public access TV, so the quality is kind of lo-fi, right. DIY, independent. Clay Tiffany did all his own research as far as we know.
Yeah.
So it's just a very much his brain.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're going to be showing you in these episodes.
Right.
We'll be broadcasting a tape, and we'll be talking about it.
Right. And each tape has there's so much information on there. Clay could sit in front of a camera and speak for an hour straight, just extemporaneously, just right off the top of his head. He knew what he was talking about. He was a master of his material, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was like kind of proto YouTube. So
right.
Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff didn't get archived except for in this physical form. So that's sort of why we think that it's important to republish this right. in more of an archival format.
Absolutely,
And that's sort of like, I think, how we want to think of this project and think of ourselves as archivists, preservationists, making almost a library of this life work of his.
Which is absolutely true. Clay, and we're going to talk about this during this episode, this interview episode, where you guys get to know what we're doing and what the project really is about. Clay he's out there, and we have examples of where Clay is and how he's kind of pictured. But before we get to that, I think we should probably talk about how we got to this point with the story, right? Mm-hmm. So the way that the story kind of found me was 2017, 2016. Clay died in 2015. It was 2:00 in the morning, and I was browsing through the internet, and I found Phil Reisman's obituary that he wrote about Clay Tiffany. Phil Reisman is a reporter for LOHUD, which is a local paper up in Westchester, Briarcliff Manor. And the obituary was the single worst thing I've ever read about a person I didn't know. It grabbed my attention. I couldn't shake it. I was obsessed with finding out more about Clay. And I think it'd be great to read the obituary to kind of give people context, right? So if our man in the other room, we have our producer Petros, can bring up, this is the article. This is Phil Reisman. He's the reporter. And this obituary, I think, what was the title of it?
Dirge for a Gadfly.
Dirge for a Gadfly.
The Strange Life of Clay Tiffany.
Nice. I think if we want to really understand what I think most people, the image of Clay locally, I think this obituary really captures that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's maybe time for me to read it.
I think so.
All right, so this is Clay Tiffany's obituary written by Phil Reisman and published in LOHUD. And here we go from the top. Clay Tiffany was a gadfly squared. He was the kind of guy who sorely tested one's faith in the sanctity of the First Amendment, which gadflies will do from time to time. But no one should mistake Tiffany for the average crank. he was in another league. Tiffany was always talking his way into lawsuits on claims he was being screwed out of his right of free speech. You might say he had a persecution complex, a crippling personality trait, and a tragedy. This acute sense of victimhood was memorably reinforced by a Briarcliff Manor cop who 16 years ago allegedly beat the daylights out of him. Tiffany sued the village and the cop, Nicholas Tartaglione, and when it was all settled and added up, it was like Tiffany had bought a winning scratch-off lottery ticket. In other words, he did well. At this point, it should be obvious that I speak for Tiffany in the past tense because he is no more. On the night of March 26, Ossining police were called to his home and found him dead. The Westchester County medical examiner said he died of natural causes. Evidently, he died alone, and the streets has it that he may have been dead for a week or two. Somebody apparently cared enough about him to request that the police make a wellness check, and if it hadn't been for that one concerned person, he might still be lying on the floor. Tiffany was 69 or 70 years of age. He had no family in the area, though it's believed he is survived by his sister who lives somewhere in Massachusetts. Tiffany was a self-styled crusader, the type who, empowered by public access cable TV, could incite fear and loathing. His show, Dirge for the Charlatans, was a platform on which he mercilessly attacked the local police, village officials, landlords, and anyone else he considered worthy of his special brand of ire. For many, he was fixated on the Board of Education. He ran for trustee at least 7 times and never won. One year he got 39 votes out of 498 votes cast. But he was a force. He had a habit of getting under people's skin. People like Jerry Smith, a chapter president of the Ossining NAACP, who in 2004 was so angered by Tiffany that he was convicted of second-degree harassment and briefly jailed after he allegedly manhandled him and threatened to beat him up. Tiffany was tall and had a thick clown-like halo of red curly hair. He liked to stalk his targets with tape recorders, egging them on to say something he could use against them. Some people might have thought he was righteous in pursuing his activist causes, but a lot of people also thought he was weird and even unhinged. Thomas Ferguson, for 2 years, served as Briarcliff Manor's village manager, told the Journal News back in 2001 that Tiffany's antics were a factor in his resignation. While he was not the primary reason, family and opportunity, Clay Tiffany did play a role in me wanting to leave. Ferguson said he added that when he drafted a press release about his leaving, he deliberately left out where he was going because of him. Tiffany constantly badgered reporters and editors to take his side. In one bizarre episode on Sunday morning, he showed up unannounced at my home in Yonkers. When he opened the door to storm in, my dog went berserk and chased him away. Twice he publicly heckled Janine Pirro, the Westchester district attorney. The first time was in 1999 at Temple Israel in New Rochelle, where she gave a talk on the night before her husband Al's arraignment on federal tax evasion and conspiracy charges. The audience gave Pirro a warm reception, but at the end of the event, Tiffany shouted, "How's your husband?" 4 years later, he popped up with a bunch of protesters at Pirro's book signing at Barnes & Noble in Yonkers. He assailed her for not prosecuting the aforementioned Briarcliff cop and for arresting him 4 times. Tiffany yelled, "What's the matter, Janine? Did you have a bad facelift?" He was kicked out of the store, but he didn't leave quietly. "I have a Barnes & Noble card," he shouted in spittle-laced protest. "This is called fascism." I was there, so I know this is true. Tiffany told the truth as he saw it. Even crazy people can be right sometimes. But Tiffany's problem was that it all got lost in the paranoid noise. It's been said that he was an English major at Colgate University. He had no discernible career except as a cab driver, and he didn't talk about it. As unlovable as he seemed, As unlovable as he seemed, somebody must have loved him once. His was a sad life. And that's the end of the obituary by Phil Reisman.
There's like so many things you could unpack there. You know, I mean, just there's a part where he says he was a reporter that stalked people with a recording device. That's your job, Phil. Like, you're a reporter too. The fact that you can contextualize what Clay did in such like a demonic way, where it literally, outlines basically what he does as the same job, right? He's a reporter too. He stalks people. Arguably would stalk people, right?
Yeah.
And there's even crazy people are right sometimes. That is a line that I think he regrets writing completely, because at that point Tartaglione was not arrested, right? Tartaglione was still free. Tartaglione was still out there. So nobody knew how right Clay was at the time.
Yeah, I think the obituary raises a lot of questions to me. And I think that's probably what caught your interest. Like, why would someone publish something so mean to a dead person?
Right. And not only that, but throughout the whole obituary, he didn't talk about anything about his life. Clay was an avid swimmer. He was great at basketball. He was he was a very physically fit guy. None of that came through. You know, he might have been a cab driver. He might have attended. He might have family. Well, we know he has family. We know he had brothers and sisters. These are Clay's personal notebooks. These are Clay's personal notebooks that we have. Because when we got Clay's tapes, we got Clay's personal videotapes too. And we got them from one of his very, very good friends. Now, the story on how we got the tapes is an entirely different episode because it took a lot of work to get them. And I think to really deep dive into it, we're going to have to talk about the people that gave us the tapes and that kind of stuff. And it's a totally different subject matter that I think we have to speak to the people that gave it to us to make sure they're comfortable talking about it. But these are people that really loved Clay, and they had a lot of faith in the integrity of his words, which is important to have friends like that believe in you. So a part of what we kind of discovered during this process, right, is how kind of immersed Clay is in society, right? There's a lot of public stuff that I think people haven't really linked up, right? And I think if we could bring an image up of the doctor, the good doctor, right, Alex?
Yeah, we're talking about Dr. Steve Brule for anybody that likes Heidecker-related media.
Right.
When Stead showed me this story, it instantly piqued my interest because I have kind of one of those cracked conspiracy brains, right. And a lot of the characters in the story were, villains in a lot of the lore in my brain and stuff like that. So I immediately knew the importance of the story, and it got me very excited. Huge fan of also the movie Network by Sidney Lumet. That's another, it's a great film about a kind of possessed journalist who speaks truth to power. And I think there's a lot of that same DNA in these tapes and in Clay's real personality.
Absolutely. And when you said that, I thought that was totally right on. It's a great reference to what Clay was really doing. And here, thank you, the man in the other room. That's what Clay used to call his producer. Our producer's named Petros. This is Dr. Steve Brule. You guys
pretty close.
Make your own. I mean, you're going to watch the tapes together with us. Clay's background was a black background with the same hair, the same kind of jacket and tie. He always wore a jacket and tie. Okay. It's going to be up to all of us together because this is why we're doing the show. We're deep diving into every one of these tapes, but it's for us, for you guys too, because we really need a community behind us to do the research into what Clay was talking about, right? Because there's a lot of stuff, like with the first episode we put out years ago, 55, that's out there that people saw. In all the comments and in all the other YouTube videos, the things that were the derivative stuff that was made from that, right? Nobody quoted the other criminals in that episode that were convicted of felonies, convicted of crimes. The only thing they focused on was the Tartaglione angle. And this is why we're doing the show the way we're doing it, right? Because we've had these tapes for a long time.
Yeah, and you've had offers and people interested. People know that the tapes are in our
possession.
Custody.
Yeah, because we tried to find people to interview, and we did a few small like Reddit posts, and we got a lot of traction. We got a lot of communication from people. Now, the communication was really widespread. There was really positive comments and really negative comments. And part of what took us so long to get to this point was, in the beginning, Nick was still on trial. And through the interviews and stuff that we did, the information we got we knew a lot of the stuff that they were talking about in the trial. We knew the witnesses. We knew the evidence they had against Tartaglione. We knew the people that flipped against him. And mind you, we're kind of custodians. We're stewards of Clay's memory, right? We're like a biographer that we want to keep intact Clay's stuff. And I don't think Clay would have wanted us to come out with the material at a time where Nick was on trial and it could have messed up the outcome of his case, right? After that happened, we got approached by producers after we were looking to make a documentary style, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem with the producers from all different major companies in the country and outside of the country is that none of them would guarantee what the direction of the tapes would go. And what does that mean? we are Clay's biographers. We're not Tartaglione's biographers. This show is about Clay's tapes. Tartaglione's a big part of the tapes and the things that happened afterwards. But we don't want to get lost in the noise. This is why we're here. We got onto this story because of Clay. And we owe it to him to really research the stuff that he did. He poured his life into these tapes behind us. They're not just VHSs. This is a representation of a man's life and the effort he put into the things that he found to be worth it, the justice component. These are things that are really valuable to us, right?
Exactly. And I think if you are interested in this story, you're probably into First Amendment stuff, into social justice, and these are major, major themes in what we're going to be diving into.
Exactly. Because that was, we're researching his stuff, and there's so many references. I can't explain this enough to you guys. This is 1 hour packed of information when you watch a Dirge for the Charlatan episode. It is a speedboat. Okay, he starts with quotes and he ends with stories, and in the middle of it, it's just so much stuff. There's references to everything. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, right? And he was a really smart guy. He seems like he was pretty well read. There's a lot of literary quotes, a lot of things I don't think either of us are going to know at first.
For sure.
But that's part of what we're here to do, is explain these packages of information and these like metaphors and everything that he kind of brought into our world.
All the subjects, the people he was calling out. And that's why these tapes aren't in someone else's hands, because we are both just two regular guys. We live in Brooklyn together. We're very good friends. We didn't want these tapes to fall into the hands of someone that was just going to use them for a movie and to forget about Clay and to cast Clay as this kind of quack, right? This guy that was a loudmouth. That, I think, is the worst thing, because the only memory, and if you really think about this, right? If you Google Clay and if you try to find him out there, there's that obituary.
Yeah, that's the first thing you'll find. And you won't find, like 150 tapes or something like that?
Yeah, you won't find out really what he was about, right? That it wasn't just, like, why do you think Nick really focused in on him, right? It's because I think Nick saw that Clay really had it out. Like, he had a good beat on him, because if we're going to talk about this throughout the show.
Clay saw through him, probably.
Exactly. And I think that pissed him off the most, right? Mm-hmm. And we have so much time to talk about the lawsuit with Clay that he sued Tartaglione and won a lot of money. That's what Phil Reisman was referencing, that he had a lotto ticket, which is completely ridiculous. The lotto ticket at the expense of getting beat up. And we have videos of that too. There's so many great clips in the show. And I think the best way to end our interview show is with a clip from Lisa Fodoraro, right? And this is a clip that none of you guys have seen before. Clay calls Lisa Fodoraro from the New York Times, right? And he's asking her if she would investigate into Tartaglione and the assault that happened with him and Tartaglione. If our man in the other room could play it.
But first we're going to listen to Lisa Fodoraro, an alleged reporter for the New York Times. And think about it. I had the wit, even though she was abusive to me and rude, to present two hypotheticals and check out how she deals with these hypotheticals. And she gets paid by the New York Times, which I read practically every day. I'm not Bill O'Reilly.
Hi. Yeah, hi, is this Lisa Fodoraro?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, hi, my name's Clay Tiffany. I think I have a fairly huge story.
Clay, I know who you are, and I would suggest you write a letter to the editor of the Westchester Weekly section, or write an opinion piece if you have any problems with anything or anyone, because we're just not going to write about you. I'm sorry.
You mean no matter even if it turns out that this cop beat me up 4 times?
Yeah, even if it turns out that he beat you up 4 times.
And even if it turns out that he beat up 10 to 15 people in Pauling?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're just not interested.
And even if it turns out that he's...
Even if everything. I know you've been in touch with Corey, so why don't you call him? Bye.
Can you believe that? Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
Right? A big part of that clip, is he's completely shocked, right? At the end of it, he's so disappointed. That's what can you believe it? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? And he has this look of just like, that the air is kind of leaving his body. That's the part about Clay that I think people miss. He had a real emotional attachment to his idea of justice. And Lisa, his complaint was that the AG at the time in Westchester, which was Janine Pirro, she was the AG for Westchester, and she refused to prosecute Tartaglione. That's why he, spoke about her and targeted her so much. With good reason, though. With good reason. And we're going to talk and discuss a lot about that. I think I'm so excited after all these years to really get to this point, because I think we had a long path in front of us before, try to find the best way to communicate this story. I think the doors that closed in front of us happened for a reason, right? It's because, people, they want to take Clay's image and use it as their own. And I think that's the worst way. We should let Clay's work stand on its own. We're going to play Clay's work for you. We're going to talk about it together. And we're going to find out more about what this guy was about. Because remember, with more eyes that we have on it, we'll have more research. We'll find out more things that we couldn't do independently, which is why we really want to involve as many people in the community, in the YouTube community, the Reddit community out there to research, to deep dive with us and to find out more about who Clay was about, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And this podcast is called The Last Gadfly. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I'm not sure if there's too much more to say, Stead.
I think we did great.
Please watch our show.
Yeah, I think you like and subscribe. We're looking forward to doing this, really. I can't wait to spend more time with you guys. Alex, fantastic. Dirge 56 next, right? Wait for our next episode next week. It's the first one's coming out probably 5 days from now. We've already got most of the work done for it. The set's done. All the hard stuff is done. Really, now this is the part that we've been waiting for, to share our passion project, our Clay's content with you, and see where it takes us, right?
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, well, is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
All right. Sayonara.
Take care.